Welcome to EL Civics Online with Standout. My name is Rob Jenkins, and I am the co-author with Stacy Johnson of a textbook series called Standout. Many of you may know of it. We have been around for quite a while. This is our third edition. We're very excited about our materials, and we have a lot to offer in terms of what you can do for online teaching and for remote teaching. So today, I thought we would share some of those things. First, I want you to understand a little bit about what Standout has to do with EL Civics and how we address that in our textbooks, as well as critical thinking. I always mention critical thinking when I'm talking about Standout because I think that that's one of the most important benefits that you get from Standout is that you have so many task-based activities in every lesson. You have problem solving. You have all sorts of different things like ranking and classifying all the way through the book. We don't have separate pages for that. We have that integrated into every lesson. And I think it's important. So I want to tell you just a little bit about how we relate with EL Civics and what we can do for you. And then I would like to talk to you a little bit about some of my concerns about remote instruction. You know, remote instruction is something that we have been forced to do, and I think it's a good thing because we're learning the technology better. We're learning different ways to deliver. But at the same time, we've spent years and years developing this idea that lesson planning is good and that we need to be doing those type of things to prepare our for our classes. And there's a lot of basic things like setting objectives that perhaps we're not doing now because we're so wrapped up in the technology that we've forgotten some of the most basic lessons that we've learned over the years about good teaching. So I thought I'd speak to you a little bit about that as we move forward. We'll just take a few slides on that. And then the rest of the time, we'll be talking about standout resources. So as we move forward, I want to make sure that you understand that Standout is one set of materials, but I'm not here as an author only. I'm here because I believe in good teaching. I spent almost my entire life in professional development at Santa Ana College. I've now retired since May, but I've worked with a lot of teachers and I've taught in the classroom all those 25, 27 years that I was at Santa Ana College. And I just feel that there's some very important things that we can talk about. So let's start with talking about our standout mission statement. You know, agencies have statements, different organizations have statements. Uh, but I think that a mission statement is good for us as teachers so that we can remember what's important and why we're there, so we don't get wrapped up again in all the technology or just the managing of the class, but we're really thinking and focusing on how we can help our students and what we can do for them. So as we get started here, let's just review what we have as a mission statement for Standout. Our goal is to give students challenging opportunities to be successful in their language learning experience so that they develop confidence and become independent lifelong learners. There's a couple of items in here that are really important for today's discussion. Challenging opportunities, of course. Uh, all the new standards that are out are really asking us to challenge, you know, adding complexity and rigor, for example. And we want our students to be successful. So we don't want to just drown them in complexity. We want to be able to scaffold and prepare them. So what we want to do is help them to be able to achieve something in the classroom or in a virtual classroom for that matter, or at home on their own, so that they develop confidence that they can do these things on their own. And they realize that this isn't just one class, you learn English and you're out. This is something that you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. And if we can develop that idea that there is something called lifelong learning, that we never stop learning, then we can grow. And that doesn't mean just our students, that means us too. When we, for example, um, think that we know everything about teaching and that we don't need any more instruction or help, I think we're on the wrong road. because there's always things that we can learn. I'm always learning, and I enjoy the opportunity to learn more from many of my colleagues, many of you. So as we move forward, let's keep that in mind. Um, in Standout, we talk a lot, or we really focus on the four C's. Uh, this is the turn of the century. This was something that was talked about a lot. But I think sometimes we talk about things, but we don't implement them. Communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration are so important. But communication isn't just a word that we say, hey, you're going to learn how to speak and you're going to learn how to listen and write and read. Communication is really where you're able to speak your mind and give your opinions and listen and understand and change people's minds and help people to understand what you want to say. So it's deeper than just a dialogue, for example. We go Dialogues are fine, but we go much deeper than that. Critical thinking, I mentioned already, is so important. There's optimum learning when students are really working through ideas and problems using the language. And of course, we want our students to be creative. We want to give them opportunities to feel like they have the opportunity to be able to talk about their opinions and give ideas and look in their imagination for things that are going on. And so that's another great and important thing. Uh, our marriage with National Geographic and our books is a great way for creativity to flourish. Also, of course, we want our students to be able to work together. In the workplace, they work together. In the academic circles, they work together. And even in life skills, maybe they're PTA or PTO or whatever it is, they might be working with other people. They in all sorts of different civics circumstances are working together. So collaboration becomes very important as well. So in Standout, we focus on those things. How does this relate to EL Civics? Well, if you think about the IET model, integrated education and training, you might think of Standout. These series of books that are for adult education to learn English are represent the first step in IET, and that is adult education and literacy. The second step is workforce preparation, and the third is workforce training. But using the word step probably isn't the right word, because all the materials and all of the instructions tell us that we need to be doing these three things simultaneously. So what we need are things that relate to each other. So what I'm trying to say here is that the workplace, the academic, and the life skills that are incorporated in Standout definitely prepare students for the workplace. We can't call it workforce preparation because it's much more than that, and it's not centered only on that. But the preparation our students get in Standout will help them in that other course they're taking with workforce preparation, and that will help them through workforce training. So all of these things will work together to help our students to navigate this integrated education and training. And it also will help your programs, because there is so much workplace and so many soft skills that our students are learning to prepare for more hard skills in the workforce preparation. In Standout, we also have projects. So projects are perfect places. They're ideal for EL Civics because a lot of the co-ops in EL Civics relate to these. Now, people use our lessons in Standout to reinforce the co-ops that they're incorporating into their classes and into their curriculum. Projects are an ideal way to do that. We have projects at the end of every unit. They're a culmination of all the lessons, the 5 lessons of that unit. So if the unit is food, you have 5 different lessons on food, and then you have an activity that you might do, which is a 2-day activity, which is a project. Students stand up and do a presentation. They can put things, you can display their work, because it always comes with some sort of product. You display their work on the board, for example. And these are great ways to incorporate those 4 C's and to help you with your co-ops as well. So moving along to the second part of this presentation, my concerns. When COVID came, I became a little bit concerned about what was happening. Well, I was seeing happening. I was, along with my colleagues, the full-time faculty at Santa Ana College School of Continuing Education. We had over 100 ESL teachers, all part-time, and they were, some of them were doing great, but some of them were really struggling with technology. At the time, we weren't using anything super sophisticated, but we were doing Zoom, and we were, many of the teachers were using Wakelet and Remind. And now they're all using, or a lot of them are using Canvas. They've gone through a lot of training. But at the time, we had to get them into remote instruction right away. And in the process, they were kind of struggling with the technology. And as they were working on the technology, get a little bit nervous that some of the things that we know are important for good teaching were getting lost. For example, I wasn't sure that we were all doing our lesson planning and scaffolding activities. Lesson planning should be reverse um, design, so that you're starting from backward design. So you're starting from the application. You have an objective. By the end of class, students will be able to do this and that. And a lot of times those objectives were missing. Then we work and give the students the tools they need to reach that application where we actually see the objective manifested. And so we want to make sure that we're not just filling time with activities, but our students are actually getting um, the tools they need to be able to do the next step. Again, this is challenging activities. When we talk about critical thinking and collaboration and all those things, these are all challenging, and that's important. That's part of our mission statement. So that's what we want to do, but we need to do it in a way that is scaffolded. And we're not just filling time. Oh, yes, I have 45 minutes because my students are going to be exhausted by then, and I will be too. So I am just going to do this activity, and oh, here's a good one, and let's do that. It's not, it should not be that way. What we should be doing is we should be trying to prepare our students for the application. Another thing that I noticed is that we had fewer interactive activities. This interactivity is really important, and yet, it's hard because the students have their if the students all have their microphones on, then you have dogs barking and children crying and noises in the background. So the tendency is to turn off all those microphones and to call on students and turn on the microphones. That's a challenge because it's harder to do interactive activities. And so I would just suggest that we really concentrate on that and we think about those challenges as we move forward with remote instruction. I know these are all basic things, but sometimes we get distracted by the technology. You have breakout rooms in Zoom. You may be using Google, or you may be using WebEx. Whatever you're using, um, find and figure out how to do activities so that the students can speak. Another thing that I noticed is that we don't have as many learning centered activities. Sometimes it becomes so teacher based because we don't have a lot of time. It's hard, when you're doing learner centered activities in the classroom face to face, you're talking to the students directly. You're learning about them. They're doing activities, and you turn to a student and you ask them where they're from or what they do, and you learn more about them. Another thing that we can do is find ways to find out more about the students. Do surveys, for example. You can do a Google Forms and do a survey, or a Survey Monkey, or whatever you want to use. But the idea is that we need to know more about our students because every student learns in a different way. So if we can work on that, that's will be important because we need to make the lessons relevant to our students. And the only way to make things relevant to students, you can't guess at what's relevant to students. You have to speak to the students. That's why every class, every semester or term, is going to be different than the one before. You can't depend on doing everything exactly the same because your students are different and they have different needs. And that's another reason that I bring this up, because I am not the expert for your class. You are the expert for your class. So, although we give you a good model of how you might be able to use the materials, you need to adapt them to the specific needs of your students. And I just can't stress that enough. And sometimes when you're online, that's a lot more difficult. So it's something to think about. And then finally, time on task is another thing that very much concerned me. When you're in the classroom and you're looking at your students, you can, and maybe you're doing a worksheet and you can see where the students are, how much they know, how many students have it, you know when to move on. But online, it's a little bit more difficult. So the challenge for us is to figure out what our students know and how to help them so that we can review or do extra activities when they're not quite getting it. But it's so tempting to say, well, I've done everything I can here on Zoom or whatever you're using, and we're done. Really, we have to be a little bit more careful than that. We have to not uh, not assume that our students all get it, because that doesn't promote learning. What promotes learning is that we're aware of our students' needs and we meet them. And when those needs are manifesting in, hey, I don't understand, I don't get it, we don't move on. We help them. So that's the idea. Now, can Standout help with this? Absolutely, Standout can help. When Standout, with lesson planning, for example, we wrote lesson plans before we wrote the books. The books were the second thing we did. At first, in the first edition, there were 4 books. Now there's 6. But with those 4 books, we wrote 360 lesson plans before we wrote any pages to the books, because the lesson plans are more important than what the next activity is. We didn't use templates. We didn't say, okay, the first unit is the first lesson in this unit is going to have a picture and then a reading, and then the next one's going to have this and that. Every lesson is unique to itself because it's working on that particular objective. It took a lot longer to write, was a lot more difficult because we had to think of activities that were task based and that would help the students. But this is important. Lesson progression is important. Scaffolding is important. And so in Standout, we have a lesson planner. You can get that electronically. It's available electronically online, and you can the lesson planner, or you can get the full book that have the book pages, the student book pages integrated in. So it's not a manual or a teacher's guide that you might be used to. It's a lesson planner because it is talking you through the lesson, whether or not you're using a page in the book or not. Many times you have the books closed while you're doing different activities. So it's not just about the activities, it's how to incorporate them into a lesson plan. And of course, we have objectives. At the beginning of every lesson, there's an objective. Don't forget to mention that. By the end of class, you students will be able to write a classified ad, or read a classified ad, write a recipe, um, learn certain vocabulary. There's all sorts of things, but one objective per lesson is good. And when you do that, the students will feel like well, first of all, they need to know what the objective is, and they will feel confident. There's that word, confident, and they will feel successful as they're able to assess how they're doing at the end of the day. You will know where they are, they will know where they are. Um, I've mentioned this 100 times already, but in our books, there are all sorts of critical thinking activities, collaborative activities, and task-based activities. These are not separate. They're integrated into every lesson. And I'll show you a little bit of that so you get an idea. This is not a fill in the blank type of a book. There are fill in the blanks. There is grammar as well, but and grammar in every lesson, and all of the skills are integrated. So listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and grammar is all integrated into every lesson. It's not separated out. Oh, here's our grammar lesson for the day, and then tomorrow we're going to do listening, and then the next day we're going to do reading. No, they're integrated into every lesson. So this is also very important. And we have a lot of materials. So you have 2,400 worksheets in online that are in Word format, so you can change them around. And I have a secret about that as well. We've made a little addition. These are multi-level worksheets. I'm going to tell you about that addition later, so listen for it, okay? Because we're going to be talking about some an innovation that we've added to make it better for remote instruction. But you have workbooks, and you have again an online workbook, which is different than the print workbook. You have all sorts of materials that the students can use and support online, the students and the teachers. There's something called a companion website, and the students and teachers have those things to work with. So these are some of the things that I wanted to mention about Standout as we move forward. Now, I want you to see, we're on the third section now of our workshop. I wanted you to see what type of activities you can do with Standout. So I'm going to give you some examples, but I thought first that I would share with you our program sampler. It's interactive and you can access this. So here's how you access it. We're going to access it in a minute, but I wanted you to see how to access it so that you can see all the materials we have, because on in the sampler there's webinars, there's all about digital solutions for online learning, there's a sample lesson in there, there's all sorts of things for Standout. But today our focus is on the technology, so that's what we'll be talking about specifically. So without further ado, let me just move over there to the website. So this is the website. It's hard to read the address here. You don't have to worry about that. It's eltngl.com/standout, or SO3, which stands for Standout 3. You can stop the video and go back and look at that address if you'd like. But here we have all sorts of different things that are the teachers can benefit from, as well as the students. And one of the things that you're going to see, well, there's a little video that gives a description of Standout by Stacy, my co-author, and you'll be able to see some of the books. But there's down here at the bottom, there's teacher's companion site and a student companion site. So before we go to the sampler, let me just give you some information. So on the teacher companion site, let's see if it'll open for us. The teacher companion site, I'll pick a level. So let's pick level 2 today. And then there's a password and username. You get that from the rep. It's very simple. It's actually Standout, and this is teacher, all lowercase. So Standout without a space, okay? So we log in. And impatiently I wait. Okay. You have here the teacher's guide. You have audio, you have video, you have other documents, including answer keys. You have the exam view assessment, and then you have your activity banks that I talked to you about. Again, 2,400. There's worksheets for every lesson, and then you have some other things like skill correlations and all of that. So those are things that you can do. If I were to leave this and come back here to the student companion site, here at the student companion site, they have access to the audio and to the video. So they can watch videos. We have videos, life skills videos, and also National Geographic videos. So you go in the same way. We're not going to go in to that right now. We're going to go back here to take a tour, and you click on take a tour, and we'll get to the interactive sampler. And this sampler is great because it has tons of information, all with links. It's all online. So these links are going to be very helpful for you. And you can use these to follow along. Here's our national standards. We have the video again from Stacy. This is a great video here on a school in Chicago that's using our materials. You'll have some explanations about different parts of the book. And if we go to page 9, you will see the online learning. Now, you may not be able to see this very well, and that's fine because you can go here yourself now. You know how to get here. But here we have online workbooks. Let me explain that online workbooks are not They are not the paper workbooks. The paper workbook is separate. It's available. You buy it in bundles or you can buy it separate, but that's available with the books. We have ebooks. We have what's called the presentation tool, and we're going to be talking about the classroom presentation tool in just a minute. I'm going to show you some examples and we'll use it temporarily a little bit so that you can see how it all works together. Exam View, that assessment I talked to you about, is available for you, and it's a great tool to use online. You can use it like for practice. You don't have to use it for assessment, but you can use it for that, and the companion sites that we've already talked about. So these are some of the things that you can use with Standout. Now, being able to use, knowing that they're there and being able to use them are two different things. So that's why I want to spend a little bit of time talking specifically about how we might go about using those. All right, so if I go from the sampler, we're going to go to, this is what the presentation tool looks like when you open it up. Now, the presentation tool is a flash drive. The flash drive you get from the rep, doesn't cost you any money. But if you're using the book, the rep will, and you know your reps, Stephen Maggiore in California and Nicole Clark in California, they can help you to get this flash drive. The flash drive, you plug it into your computer. You can download it if you want, but you don't have to. You can use it right from the flash drive, and it will open up to basically all of the audio, video, and the book itself. You'll be able to use, and not only is it like an ebook, but then you also can do all the, like I said, the audio and the video. And there's other things that you can do. So I'm going to show you that. So let me get to there, if I can find it quickly. All right, so here we are. I've already opened it, so you can see where we are. This is book 2. Let's go to our lesson 3, or unit 3. So this is like a table of contents. We're going to go to food and nutrition. And here I have lessons. I have the workbook. I have all the pages to the workbook here. And this is not the online workbook. This is the hard copy student workbook. So it's in black and white, 3 pages for every lesson. So you have a lot of extra activities that you can do. And you can just go through the pages, or you can pick a certain lesson, but this is the book itself. And then if I want to go back, I'm going to go to the lessons here. So this is the book itself now. We were the workbook. Now we're back to the lessons. And I'm going to go to lesson 4. So in lesson 4, I can look at it like this. This is a 2-page spread. I can look at it at 1-page spread, so it's less distracting. I can enlarge it as much as I want. I'm just double clicking here. There's also a button over here, and I can make it pretty much as big as I want to. Doesn't seem to be any limit to it, which is kind of nice. And then I'm going to shrink it back with this other button. But I have the listening here. We're not going to play the listening now, but if I were to just click on this, we could play the audio, and I don't have that on right now, but you can see it. And you have teacher tips in here. You have, sometimes there's crossword puzzles. There's all sorts of things that you can do, but you can annotate what you're doing. You can, I like this one. So if I want to just talk about one activity, I can hide the rest and then expand it. And then the students and I can walk through this. So if you're using Zoom or WebEx or one of those things, this works perfectly. You just share this screen like I'm doing right now. And then you can highlight things, you can talk about things, you can mark them up. You can use the tools from this to annotate it, or you can use it if you're using Zoom, you can use the Zoom annotation as well. And then you have the opportunity to be able to do that. And let's just look at this lesson for a minute. This is 3 pages. Every lesson is 3 pages. There's 5 lessons per unit. We're not overburdening the students. We're giving them new information. The objectives are different in every book, but the general topics, meaning the unit titles, are similar, so that the students are learning more sophisticated information at every level. This happens to be beginning high. students, you and the students read together. You might listen without the reading. So I might cover this first, the reading, and listen, and then follow from there. Now you might notice we have these big red bold, but not everywhere, but these big red bold in many places throughout the lesson. This is where college and career readiness standards and critical thinking meet. There's this critical thinking. And so you might see, for example, classifying here. Later on, we have ranking. I love this activity. This activity, the students are learning new vocabulary, but instead of just telling them what spaghetti is and what green salad is and what pepperoni pizza is, you have an opportunity to have them. You first work with them in scaffolding, you work with the vocabulary, and then you build from there until they're ready for this activity, which is in this case ranking, where the students in groups have to come to consensus about who has the best nutrition. So they're going to be talking back and forth saying, well, I think Rosa is, has toast and coffee, which doesn't seem as healthy as fruit, cereal, and milk that Fernando has. And you work your way through until you've seen all the meals, and then you decide who has the best nutrition in each group. What a great activity. This is critical thinking. And when I talk about critical thinking and communication and collaboration, this is real communication, real collaboration, and real critical thinking. So that's important as well. Another thing I want you to notice is that we have uh, three. Okay, a lesson plan has 6 stages: warm up, introduction, presentation, practice, evaluation, and application. This here is an opportunity for us to see how all these work together. And in the lesson planner, you'll learn about a warm up, and then you'll have a presentation and a practice. You'll see this on the page. You may see the warm up on the page, just depends on what we decided was important. But you'll see a presentation practice, but not just one. Here's the second one, presentation and practice. And here's the third one, presentation and practice. And each one of them has an evaluation, of course. And then you have an application at the end. So the applications don't have to be complicated, but they are important. Don't skip it, because this is where the students make sure they understand and are relevant. So this what do you and your family eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Complete the chart. So here they're completing a chart about themselves, and finally they're asking their partner about it. So we don't just put collaboration is everywhere, especially in the higher levels. It's at the beginning of the lesson, but at the end of every lesson, you're going to see it in the application. You'll see a lot of interaction as well. So that's the idea there. I just wanted you to see that you can use this in your Zoom or in your WebEx or in your Google or whatever format you're using and whatever platform you're implementing. And that way you can really integrate with the book. The students have the books and they're using those books. But this is something that you can do. So that's what the um, presentation tool is all about. Let me get back to the page here that we're on, and that is our PowerPoint. And I'm going to go to the next step. There's something called an online workbook. The online workbook, again, is not the paper workbook. You saw the paper workbook. This is the online workbook. It is a learning management system. In other words, it has a grade book. It has ways to check and see how much time students are spending on each activity. It has, of course, a portal for the students to enter and communicate with you. It has all sorts of different things that you can do. This is sophisticated. If you're not using a learning management system, some of you know of other learning management systems. Many of you are using, for example, Canvas. Others are using Blackboard, or there's many others. But in California, Canvas is very popular with community colleges, so you may know that the best. But there's many different forms. But this has it, Standout is built in. So the online workbook has built in Standout into this learning management system that's specifically designed for National Geographic materials, and Standout is integrated in. It has video, it has audio, it has multiple choice, it has matching, it has all sorts of different kinds of assessment tools, but also students write, and have assignments. There's all sorts of things you can do. You set up the assignments. Here's a couple examples. This one is a multiple choice, and they're going to give you some information here, and so their students are going to choose from that. These are just a few examples. Um, it's much richer than what I can show you in just a few minutes. But here's the idea. Here they have reading, and again, this is a low level, so you're going to have easy reading, and same with listening. You're going to have easy listening, and then finally, there's also video, and this happens to be National Geographic video, which is a great way for our students to grow in learning, because when you use a learning management system, the students are going to remember a lot, and they're going to try over and over to get things right and understand it. They may listen to this, well, several times, as many as 10, 15 times to understand it, which you don't get in the classroom. So this is a great opportunity for our students. So learning management system is basically a way for you to organize and implement and track and otherwise manage instruction. And the benefits of it, well, for the student, students know what their expectations are. You set the objectives. If you're writing it correctly, and if you're using, for example, the online workbook, it's there for you. But students can work ahead if you want them to. You don't have to. You don't have to release that the instruction until you want to, but for each thing. But the students can work ahead if you want. You can use it like a flipped classroom, so the students are preparing for class, and then they come to their Zoom or whatever, and so they're preparing with the online workbook, and then they're going to use the book in the classroom, which is a virtual classroom, in this case Zoom or whatever. But I would stress that you don't have to wait for the virtual. You don't have to stop using this once you're out of the virtual classroom, because the pandemic will end, and you want to. I mean, it's great to use this anytime. There's a lot of great benefits to it. With home, you can assign homework, and there's links, so students can just link on things instead of you writing on the board like you have in the past. Well, go to this link. Now they have a place to click. It helps us to stay organized. It helps us to track how students are doing, and progress, and evaluate what they're doing. And they have access to us 24/7, not really to us, but to the program, which means that they can get to us, and we can deliver information to them if they need it, and be there as a counselor for them. Now, Canvas is another one, another LMS. And surprise, surprise, the authors of Standout, Rob Jenkins and Stacy Johnson, that's me, Rob Jenkins, we have designed and put together Canvas shells for all of the books. So we don't have a lot of time to show you, but I want to show you the thinking that was involved, and then we'll just show you a quick example of some of those things. But there were things that we had to consider. And finally, how are you going to use it? When are you going to use it? It's not just a bunch of activities. Remember, lesson planning is essential. So how can a teacher use Canvas or any other LMS to and really reach the students? Lesson planning. Plan it out, figure it out, scaffold, work towards an objective, an application. Figure out exactly what you want to do, and that's what that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. So in this in these Canvas shells, you will see discussions, assignments, quizzes that we use like practice most of the time, although we have incorporated exam view in the newest versions of these, projects, and pages. So these come directly from the book itself. They're not, you can see the page numbers, they relate directly to the book. Um, and so what we did was we looked at the 3 lessons that you saw, or the one lesson with the 3 presentations and practices, and we said, what do the students need? What can help them to prepare for class? And then the class will be interactive and communicative. So we're preparing them for the interaction and communication through activities they do before class. So what activities in Standout can we pull to prepare the students? And then what activities can we give them after class, after the Zoom class or WebEx, that they can do to reinforce what they're learning. And so that is the application. We use a little asterisk because we didn't, it's very subtle, but we're talking about activities you do after class. But the reason we did a little asterisk and nothing more broader than that is because all of these Canvas shells can be changed any way you want. You can use pieces of them. You don't have to use them all. You don't have to use them in the format we did. You can add things, take things away. It's just a Canvas shell. It's yours. Once you have it, it's yours. And you get it through the rep again. The rep can send it to you. If you're using Standout, it doesn't cost any money, and it's ready to go. We didn't spend, I spent my time and Stacy spent her time working on these. So there was no expense, so we don't have to charge you for them. The only expense was my time, and I'm retired. So it makes it a little bit easy. So we're gonna just go through a really fast tour because we're just about out of time here. But I want to get back to that. So let me see if I can, you don't see it. Oh, here it is. Okay. So we're going to go to the Canvas shell. And I'm going to go here. This is my Canvas shell. So again, if you don't use Canvas or your school doesn't use Canvas, you can get a free Canvas account. I use this Canvas account, and I wrote all of these lessons or all of these books, Stacy and I did, using these Canvas materials. So you can do that. You can get your own Canvas. So let's go to book 2 to see how it looks. And the best way to do it, although I hate the color, the best way to do this so that we all know what's going on is to look at it from the student's point of view. So I'm going to click the student view. Here's the student view. Again, I can't stand this color, but we'll suffer through. Maybe you won't suffer as much as I will, but we'll suffer through. So here you have the table of contents. You remember that from the presentation tool. And I'm going to go to Unit 3. And it takes just a second for it to click in, but then it'll go to our Unit 3. And then once we're at Unit 3, we can go to whatever lesson. There's also the unit opener. So you'll have the beautiful pictures, the beautiful National Geographic picture here that you can use. And then when we're in this unit, you'll always have the first page. This is a page, which just information. There's nothing for students to do here. And again, you can take this off if you want, but I think it's important to students to see what the goal is. In this case, it's to read a menu. And for the teacher, we see some of the resources that are available. You also have audio in here. So here's an assignment, and the students will click on once they've listened. And so we can listen. It's all integrated in. This is right from the book. Then they can click on this to do the assignment. They'll write their assignment out, and then they'll submit their assignment. We're going to move on. We're not going to submit our assignment today, so I'm going to tell it to leave. It's saying, hey, you didn't write your assignment. And then this is where the asterisk is. So that last activity you do before class, this activity you do after, and this one happens to be a collaboration where the students talk like in a blog and they talk to each other. And here we're giving them some things to say because it's beginning high. So they may need some help. So we're giving them some suggestions of some things that they might say. And then finally, at the end of this, we have what is the workbook. Some other activities. So we're suggesting you could use the workbook, the online workbook. Again, this costs money. It's not expensive, but if you want to have the online workbook, you can do that. That's another activity that they can do. You have your activity worksheets, and this is the secret that I was telling you about. The activity worksheets are in PDF. These ones on Canvas, only on Canvas, not online, are fillable PDFs. We've created fillable PDFs so the students can fill them out and send them back to you. And they can do that right through Canvas. So then we have the next lesson. There's video in here. There's audio in here. There's everything that you need to have a great and successful class. So we're really out of time at this point. But I wanted to just thank you for the time that you've given me to, or the time that you've taken to listen to my ramblings about what we can do with Standout and online instruction. I hope you gain some insight into the best way to use it. And you're welcome to email me. I'm not too good at calling, but email me anytime you like, and I will be happy to answer your questions. Of course, you can always talk if if you're looking for information about the materials, specifically about buying them or about getting a flash drive or anything. You don't contact me. You would contact Stephen Medjori or Nicole Clark. If you don't know who they are, then you can go to the website and you can get that information. It'll say find a rep, and those two reps in California can certainly help you. They're fantastic. They're really great people, and they will be very supportive of you. But if you have any troubles at all, email me. I'll be happy to help you. I appreciate all your time, and I hope that you enjoyed this. Thank you very much.